Awesome, guys. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have my friend Kyle Tucker on the podcast. I have met Kyle Tucker through a leadership program, and Kyle Tucker since has helped me put few properties under contract. Mm-hmm. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Kyle. And a couple different things is the way that he views leadership, his example with what he's done with his money. I actually met Kyle like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, something like that.
Yep.
And at this same leadership event before I had actually joined, and Kyle stuck out like a sore thumb with his Bentley. And because you're 32 or 31?
30 right now.
30. Okay.
Yeah.
So Kyle's 2 years older than me and was driving around a Bentley 2 years ago. So when did you get that? How old were you?
I don't know. 28, 27, 26. I've had it since, I think I got it fall of 19. So it's been like 3 years.
27-ish?
Yeah, 27.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So Kyle, tell us about you. What are some of your notorious accomplishments?
Yeah, so I think without telling the whole story.
How did you afford a Bentley at 27?
Without telling the whole story, I mean, I'll give as much as pertinent to today, but I have a background. I came from the tech industry. So kind of like what I did from day to day, and I actually still do it quite a bit today, is data science. So I'm a data guy. I love numbers. I love doing math. I think it's also important to note that I was raised in a family with a father that had a business, and fortunately was kind of taught how to structure a dollar bill. I know that sounds a little weird, but when it came in, how to divide it up and where to put it. And so I think that combined with my background in data, had me take a very different approach to investing and how I went about things. At an early age, I just started socking money away in my career and started investing that. And I made a lot more money through my investment vehicles than I ever did in active income. And that started to build up over time. And I think that's kind of where the Bentley and other many things that we could talk about came in. But I think the very, very important point to note here is before anybody buys a Bentley or that thing or whatever it might be, I always talk about buying assets with your active income and then let the assets pay for the loans on the things that you're having fun with. A lot of people will take their money and then start to buy things, right? Whereas buy the assets and let the assets pay for the things. So you kind of double dip there.
Why do you think it's so normal that people purchase liabilities over assets? Because it's pretty common to see someone who's super wealthy have assets pre-liability.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you think it's so normal? And it's the most normal thing today. It's like your 1% are there only people that do that? Yeah. But it's like, if the 1% are doing that, shouldn't
everybody be doing it? Yeah. So, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit today with something I talk a lot about, and I've talked in several communities, is relationship to money. And the part that you just mentioned, like the 1% versus the 99%, right? I talk about that a lot. And unfortunately, but it's reality, is the 99% is the majority of people, right? When you're walking around talking to people, even when I coach investors and work with people one-on-one, they have to realize that if they go talk to their sister, their cousin, their friend, likely they're talking to another 99. And the reality in that situation is it's not the information that you want to be operating from. So stepping into your question of like, why do wealthy people buy essentially assets before liabilities, where the majority is buying liability? And unfortunately, from my perspective, if you look at, you could even go global, but at least from the United States, is we are built on consumerism. Everything we do, see, touch says you're not enough until you X, until you Y.
Yeah.
And so like, it doesn't even matter what it is, right? It's going to pull you. And that's like, it's what we live in. You look at even just like go through the cereal aisle at the grocery store. It's just jumping off the shelf at you, right? And so the reality is like, I don't necessarily think it's just hey, people don't understand and we're dumb by any means. It's more of like, the system is built to keep us in as a consumer and to keep us as a 99. That's the reality of it. So recognizing that's really important.
Okay. So like, most people are born into that. Like why do some people break out? How is it that they break out when you do coaching? Actually, so your dad kind of taught you how to break out. Is that correct or no? Or did you kind of figure your own way?
I would say I figured my own way. I think my dad really taught me how to, I say that in very simple terms, like manage a dollar bill.
Yeah.
I think then what you do with it thereafter, like that's step one. What you do with it thereafter is like where you really need to put some effort in. And the other is table stakes. So figuring out, you get a paycheck for $5,000, $10,000. I'm sure everybody that's, listening knows what some of these checks can look like. It's pretty easy early on to want to buy something with that.
Yeah.
To go get it starts out small. I'm sure what's trendy nowadays, I don't know, AirPods maybe. You buy some AirPods, so the new ones, the big ones. But then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And you're buying stuff at $2,000, you're buying it at $5,000, you're buying it at $10,000 because you can. Yeah. Even you're buying the Tesla or the BMW in cash. Like it's very common. So learn to take it simple with $1. Say, hey, I want to put X dollars away for charity, X dollars away for investing, X dollars away for savings, then operate off 50% of that, right? If you just start doing that, simply that, right? It's the same way I run my business with income I bring in from real estate. I allocate budget towards marketing, towards sales, right? And so that I can have funds to say, okay, we've allocated that to execute with, right? So individuals, unfortunately, like, even though we're born into things and there's the 99 are the way that they are, the way that we are, and I come from that, I think it's not that we're stuck or can't go somewhere. It's just a matter of really like looking at things and putting an effort to thinking differently about money. And it's not, don't take it to spend it. Take it to store it, invest it, and spend the proceeds from the investments. It's really simple. Yeah. And over time, it's crazy what that can do. But it's hard. And especially I know people listening are like, yeah, but I really want it. Yeah. I'm actually working on a deal right now that there could be a paycheck. I mean, I probably have to be careful what numbers we throw out here, but it's a substantial paycheck. To the extent that I was talking to a buddy because at some point there's a couple other supercars I want to buy, and this could afford actually a few in cash. And I was joking with my buddy, and I had to say, yeah, but how I operate. What I talk about is I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the paycheck. I'm going to buy more assets and invest. And if we can get the cash flow ramped up enough to pay for the loan on those, we'll go ahead and do that. So it hits everybody, even it doesn't matter the level. It hits everybody. It's like, oh, let's go get that thing, So
what? So I guess the question for you, and this is targeted for myself, for anyone that listens to this. Like, how do you break out of that, and how do you just start kind of making those baby steps? Because you have a substantial amount of real estate. Most of your net worth's in real estate, correct?
Correct. I would say yes. Majority, almost all of it.
Okay. And could you share how much that is?
Yeah. So to give exact numbers, and I probably need a little refresh button on it because the market's not necessarily where it was, but I know that I kind of stopped keeping pace, but I hit 15 million in assets before the age of 30. And right now it might be down a little bit, but that was an indicator. And I got to, from a cash flow perspective on passive income, was around 230,000. And then when you talk about net worth, there's a substantial amount of loans built into that 15 million. I think the math's around like 9 to 10 million. So if I were to liquidate everything, I'd have probably about 5 million at this point in time. So it is a major achievement for me, but it's not ultimately where we're headed and where we get to go, but it's also a massive leap from where I was. Yeah. Because the reality is like when I started and was really digging into the numbers, is like, say you have a car in your house and you like do the math on that, you really only have like your net worth's not, you're looking at 100K, 200K. Like there's not a lot of assets and capital there. Right. But as I've built mine, I haven't made $5 million in commission checks or anything like that, but I have made what I have and then put it away. I mean, I think I got to 13 or 14 units, and these are units in Utah, not in the Midwest. We're investing in like a 52-plex right now, and we know the price difference, but Utah units, I was at probably 12 to 13 units with just using a disposable income from my tech job. And at the time I was probably, to give some context, and maybe this will help whoever's listening, but also help you understand, is like when I came out of school, I was making, I think that the compensation packet was $72,000 a year. And my wife and I, we looked at moving to Silicon Valley, we looked at moving to New York, and we decided, I got a matched offer here in Utah, and they were like, hey, you know, you will give you the same compensation package. And we decided we could build a home here, or we could go live paycheck to paycheck in some of these cities where it's so expensive to live. And so we built a house. That was the first thing we did, like right out of college. And what was interesting is we really pushed the limit at that time. Like we were super house poor is how I would describe it. But what was really fun is the feelings and emotions I had. That's not the fun part. I'll tell you the fun part. The feelings and emotions I had with being house poor, I didn't love it. We also had a dog that passed away at 1 year old, and it was this freak thing. And he went from the vet to the specialist to the hospital to the ICU. And we incurred an $18,000 bill from him in an 8-day span, and he passed away.
Wow.
And so we were like, what do we do? And we started pulling income and learning how to bring in additional income, not from our main primary sources. I was driving Uber on the weekends. We Airbnb'd some rooms out, just kind of put that hustle on. But the point is like you start to generate, and what we decided to do is like at that 70,000 mark, we were never going to increase our lifestyle until it was doing what I just talked about, where our assets were generating the income versus us generating the income. So as I hit pay raises, and for those fortunately paying attention and have the opportunity to have commission checks, it's a little bit different. I couldn't just go blow the ceiling off. I couldn't just go push it, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was, okay, I got a pay raise. I'm at 78. Okay, I'm at 82. Hey, I'm at 88, right? And I kept going and cruising, and every extra dollar we started putting away. My wife also owned a business, and we would take capital from that and put that away. And I think I got up by the time I left the tech industry, and I apologize if anybody out there in the tech industry listens and is like, wait, my comp's not the same. But I think my total comp package by the time I left, I was at like I want to say 150 to 160 cash. And then with benefits, it was like a 220. So it was pretty high. And to walk away from that was a lot of security. But notice, as I talk about my growth, my growth in my past is 70,000 up to 160. We're looking at $90,000 that, take off taxes, but I was putting that away to purchase.
Yeah.
Right. And so we really stayed living at that same starting point and didn't increase until the assets were kicking the money back. And then that's when we started to use those funds. So I definitely think, especially for you, more for your reps that are out in the field. I know you have a lot of young individuals. They don't need a lot to like live, right? Yeah. There's some fun things they could definitely purchase, but like try to continue to live there, and then all that extra money, keep putting it away, because I think one of your people, guy, 5 years in the industry could just do incredible things.
Yeah.
If they have the discipline. Right. But the problem is that, top rep sells and they want to be seen as the top rep. So they buy the things that make them appear such. Right. But I'll tell you what, I'm a player for the long game, and like, you can't fake like true wealth.
Yeah.
Right. As you start to build that, I shouldn't use fake. That's derogatory to anybody spending money. That's not what I want to get at. You can't snap your fingers and repeat that.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Yeah. You can always beat the week record or the month record or the annual record, but like you can't just snap your fingers and beat a 5-year growth plan.
Yeah.
Right. So
for sure. At what point do you start to delegate stuff? Cause like, I'm reading this book right now, and it talks about how he's like, how much money am I worth per hour? You know, he's like, if I could be doing that during that hour versus going to the grocery store, like just have someone go to the grocery store. At what point do you start to delegate? Because of what you do, you can make so much more money versus something else.
Yeah. This is a really good question. I've got a few pieces on this, and I don't know if it's the right answer, but it's kind of what I did. First things first, any rep, anybody out there, I mean, whether they're from the industry you're in or from any other background, they need to get to making 6 figures a year. If they're not, I would be reinvesting money into myself. I would be doing coaching. I'd be doing leadership programs. I'd be doing development courses, whatever it is to continue to up level. So that's where like I'm highlighting that first to understand, so people understand that like invest in yourself so you can increase that per hour value. And then once you're 100K plus, I mean, you can figure out your hourly amount. And I do think it's that, like, do the math, know your hourly amount, and figure out what shouldn't I be doing. There was, I want to say this COVID screws up like all the timelines in my head. 2 years, 3 years is when I started to delegate a lot of stuff. I'm someone who likes to be involved and know what's happening. And so it took time for me to do that. But once I did, it was massive. People ask, like, I mean, I know my wife's in conversations about like, what's your grocery bill? And she's like, I have no idea. We don't go to the grocery store, and our assistant stocks the fridge. Like, I have no idea. Right. Because you're right. There are things like the mail, the lawn, the grocery shopping, even food. Like, we eat out a lot. I was just talking to my wife about this like 2 nights ago. There was a study that came out that those that make meals at home, it's an average of $4 a meal.
Yeah.
Those that eat out, it's an average of $13 a meal. Now, I would say ours is probably more expensive because we enjoy eating out. But I did the math on that, and I'm like, okay, so it's a $9 difference. And what? Between cooking and dishes and all that, you're going to spend maybe 30 minutes to an hour. I don't know what the time is. Maybe, I think me and my wife did the math at 20 minutes. Do the math on that. I said, like, okay, the $9 times all the meals in a month, what is that? 3 per day times 30, 90 meals times $9, right? It's not an amount that I am worried about at all. What's the math on that?
$810.
$810
for sure.
$810 to be eating out every day versus eating at home.
For sure.
And like, I know my hourly rate, and it's probably depending on how things are going during the year, but it's probably more than that per hour. So for me, it's like, it's a no-brainer to eat out every single meal.
Yeah.
And like, our fridge is just filled with drinks.
Yeah.
So like, so that's like an example of delegation. The one thing I want to add here for those that are performing at a really high level and those that are delegating, there is a point that I got to that I kind of felt like I was going crazy. So the reason why I want to bring this up is because if you delegate so much, you essentially spend all your time in work, like literally all your time, because you're maximizing your dollar per hour value, right? I started to get burned out. Like, it was too much. Like, I was having meals dropped off at my desk. I was like, everything, I didn't do anything but like help others and execute from an investment perspective. And I was doing it 16 hours a day. And like, that lasted a while, but eventually it was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And so the invitation there to those that are performing and you start delegating is like, remember, like, what are the things, I even was actually out to lunch with one of your reps recently and we talked about this, but like, what are the things that make you come most alive? And slate those into your schedule. Block time out, whether it's a daily thing, a weekly thing, maybe it's a monthly thing because you like to go out and maybe it's drive a fast car, maybe it's go to a concert, like something that is enjoyable. But I really think about this statement of like, what makes me come most alive? And that's now, but also what did my childhood, what made me come most alive then? And how can I incorporate that in?
Yeah.
Because there's material there. So, I just note that because I remember I started mowing the lawn again this past summer.
Really?
And it was great. Like, to do nothing and to just like put a little book in or podcast or something and just walk around and just do nothing and not have to be so doing an activity that's so mentally taxing was really, really nice for me. So, I think that's the final note I'll put on delegation.
Okay. So. You kind of hit on this on one of them, but like I had a question that was, a lot of these are investment questions. Like one of them is, should I invest in stocks and crypto? Like, and I think, cause like whenever anyone ever thinks about investing, it's like stocks, crypto or whatever. Right. And then like, and also real estate. And I think everyone's kind of gone through that and then start to realize that like the most wealthy people in the world just buy real estate right? Yeah. Like, do you ever buy stocks? And if you do, why?
I haven't bought stocks in a while.
Okay.
So back when I talked about managing a dollar, I used to put 20% of every dollar away and invest it. My graduation present, I asked my parents for a share of Apple when I was 18. So like I'm weird, I know. But I had stocks for a long time. I have crypto, I have stocks. I mean, I have both right now, but I don't actively do anything with them.
And are you actively purchasing?
No, I don't allocate funds towards those types of assets.
So anything that you've done in the past, you've just,
it was an easier barrier of entry. And you could put 5K in, you could put 2K, you could put 15, 20, 30, real estate's going to be a higher ticket. And so I was putting it in, but the reality was I started to focus on what I knew best. And playing the stock game, the crypto game, like consumed me. Being a data person, I was checking my phone all the time. I mean, when crypto started existing and the stock market opened and closes, the crypto market does not close.
Yeah.
There's that 3 a.m. Let me just check. I just want to see like maybe I'm up. Dude. Maybe I'm up, right? And then you're on your phone for 2 hours in the middle of the night. And it's like, turn off your phone. Like if that's pulling you away from like your highest value, then what are we doing? Yeah. Right. So for me, there was a twofold decision there. Number one was, is it actually where I can get the highest return? It was kind of where I was storing money, but I had to like do research. I couldn't just like blindly stick money into a stock or into a crypto fund. Right. Like I had to think about what I was doing. But it wasn't my highest value return. And then the other thing is when you get into, and I know you've had some guests on the show before that you've talked with, but when you get into the tax situation of real estate, I call it a triple income opportunity. Crypto and stock are only single income. And that fundamentally right there is one of the biggest reasons why I don't allocate funds anymore, is because I'm not triple dipping. Why wouldn't I triple dip if I could? The only caveat I will say, and the reason why I would buy crypto or would buy a stock, and this is what I did in the past for a while, once I stopped just kind of putting all my money there, I would only do it if I had a really strong lead on like a play. There was a time someone asked like, how'd you buy that house so fast? And I was like, well, I mean, if you guys go back in history and look at Tesla a few times, big Tesla enthusiast, and like, I can't remember. I put 12K into Tesla at one point and sold it at like 90 something. And it was like, there's a house, right? Yeah. So like when I was in tech, they're like, how do you get this money? I was like, well, it's 12 grand in Tesla, get you a house.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, I don't know what the companies are today to do that with. People probably know. I know the market's down because of the economy, and there's a huge opportunity to ride that back up 100%. Same with the crypto market. It's getting slaughtered, especially with some of the news that we've had. Definitely an opportunity to put some money in. I 100%. And the reality is the same way with real estate right now. Like there's massive opportunity across the board. The best thing someone I feel like could do with their money right now is not spend it on, and it's sad to say this, but like, there's a window here that is incredibly unique to like multiple decades. Like I would not be spending it on, AirPod Pro Max, whatever they're called, and like I would spend a year just grinding and putting that money away because it will pay back on a multiple.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's sick.
Yep.
Cause, and when you're talking about triple dipping, you're meaning, cause like stocks and crypto, stocks and crypto, you only get you only make money if it goes up. You only get money if it appreciates.
Yeah.
You sell it and then you pay taxes on that.
Correct.
You pay taxes on your gains.
Yep.
So like though you make money on it and it's a single form of income, you still pay taxes on that.
It's cut down. Yeah.
And then with real estate, you're talking about triple dipping. So you have number one, cash flow. So what you get paid every month.
Yep.
Then you have your appreciation.
Yep.
And then you also have
Your tax.
depreciation, which is any tax benefits that you can get with real estate. So biggest expense that we have in our entire lives is taxes. So you have all three of those. So like the problem with stocks is that you do play that game where if you don't know the business, like what you're talking about, if you don't have all the insider, if it's not consuming your life, you may not do well unless you're playing a super long game and whatever.
The long game's great, but I don't think many people play the long game.
Right. Whereas real estate, the appreciation thing is just bound to happen at some point. Right.
Just look at 100 years of data.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You buy a home right now, even if in the next 12 months the market goes down, it's still going to go back up.
Yeah. And there's a saying there of like, if you look at Utah's data, I mean, I don't know if this applies across the country, but I know it's for sure with Utah's like, there's never a bad time to buy, but there is a bad time to sell.
Yeah.
So there's little moments, right? And like right now we're in one of those. It's got like a little dip going. What we don't know is, does it slide a little more, or are we kind of tapping the bottom and we're going to scoot out of this, right?
Yeah.
A lot is tied to rates, and rates have finally started coming back down. So it's too early to tell, but yeah.
Because like real estate's not a company. It's not going to like go down and go away.
No.
Like it's just going up.
Yeah.
And eventually we're going to hit a point where homes are too expensive for people to even purchase, and it's going to be they're going to be owned by investors
potentially,
right? Which are us,
Yep.
and large hedge funds.
Yeah,
100%. Right? We're going to become a rental country, and so like, why not buy real estate? Like, I've massively shifted a lot of my interest from I was majorly in crypto, lost 80 grand in like a whole day, one day. It's like my wife's worst day ever. I'm like, babe, we'll double down. I pulled out a bunch of cash and put more money in.
Oh gosh, I love
it. That was like 2 years ago, I think. But yeah, we've massively changed our strategies.
Yeah,
just because like I think crypto is the future of the way that we're going to like our currencies.
Yeah, for sure.
What it's going to be, I don't know, or what they're going to be. Mm-hmm. Like we really don't know.
Yep.
There's a lot of leads and what things are going to do, but not a lot of them are actually like have huge impact on what we do day to day.
Yeah.
You can't go to the store and purchase a candy bar with a Satoshi, you know?
And we don't know which one it's going to be and there's so many people that say they think they know, but like the reality is we don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like Gary Vee talks about this all the time. There's going to be a bloodbath someday.
For sure.
Where 2,000 coins, and we're going to come out with 5 or 10, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And he said he's just sitting there waiting for that day.
Yeah.
You know, so he can clean up.
So we'll have that. So that's the crypto thing, and then stocks, like I was saying with real estate. Real estate's not a company, right? That you have to bet on.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just gonna happen, right? It is the economy.
It's the economy. It's the United States of America. I mean, you just look at like what happens. It's also inflation. Like it's not, some of it's not even true value, right? It's just
for sure.
But it is one of the best asset classes to have in an inflationary period, because you get the benefits of the inflation, not get torn up by it, right? But I want to double click on what you said was this idea of I buy stocks, right? Like let's just walk down this like for a moment. I buy stock and then I make a profit. I have to pay taxes on my profit. I also have to pay taxes on my income, right?
Meaning your earned income.
Yeah, your earned money
in order to buy that stock.
Yeah, it's just it's separate. Not even. Let's say you have $50,000 and you're sitting right now and you put that into stock. You make some money, and then during the year you make $300K, whatever, right? The reality is, okay, well, whatever my $50K became, I got to pay tax there. And then I made $300,000. I got to pay tax there. So we're just paying tax everywhere.
Yeah.
Real estate is going to not pay tax like the stock would, and it's also going to give a shield or a benefit to make you pay a substantially less amount of tax on the $300K that you made.
Yeah.
So like there's income there. There's income there. I mean, I count that as 1, but that's essentially 2 in the tax world. Then you have your cash flow and your appreciation, right? Which a stock is either going to be dividend paying or or appreciating, right? And you buy and sell it. So normally some stocks might be both, occasionally, rarely, but normally they lean one or the other, whereas real estate can be both, plus you have the tax savings, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Is that helpful?
What another thing is, how do you actually, so right now, I just want to address this really quick. So
Sure.
Your advice to someone that's wanting to hold off on, and I have my opinion on this, but someone that's wanting to hold off on purchasing real estate right now, what would the intelligent investor do in this situation? Would you buy right now if someone had the opportunity to, or would you try to time the market? Because obviously we've already talked about, bro, grind, stack cash. And also another thing I want to address that I really agree with is, I don't remember who was saying this, but someone came on Brandon's podcast and was like, if you're not making multiple $100,000 a year, invest everything into you.
In yourself.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And so like,
I learned that from Grant Cardone, so I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah. So like, I mean, and in sales, especially in solar sales, it's like it's extremely easy to do. And if you're not doing it, then you're either not working hard or you just don't know how to do it yet. And so just like figure out how to do that, and then buying the property, buying whatever you're going to do, you're going to make way more money.
Yep.
Because you have way more disposable funds for it. So if someone has disposable funds though right now, like,
what would I say?
What would you say?
Yeah.
Trying to time the market or pulling the trigger. And this is someone who's going to be making money throughout the year as well.
Yeah. So I think there's kind of two pieces I'll answer on this. The first one is, part of what I do is work with individuals one-on-one, right? Yeah. Their personal background, financial situation, all that they have going on is very important to the answer to this question. Okay. Now we're going to make some assumptions here, right? We're assuming that they have a chunk of money. They don't know really what to do with it. It's sitting there in the bank. They're going to continue to earn money, right? Because there's a differentiation there. If they weren't going to continue to earn, I treat it differently.
Right.
If they're going to continue to earn, they have a chunk of money. The biggest thing, so then this puts us into the answer. The biggest thing here is like timing, like trying to time things is like, I don't want to be derogatory, but like it's you can't. Yeah. Like as much as somebody thinks they're a genius, like I will tell you right now, and is this podcast supposed to be clean? Like can I?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Danny Pesci was on here, bro.
I love Danny. I'm going to see him tomorrow. Like for someone like to try to time the market, I have those individuals, and like love you to death if you're one of those people. I used to be one of those people, but I'm saying this so that you come around to realize that like I literally describe those people as like ass hat clowns.
Yeah.
Like I used to try to do that, and it just causes you stress. You feel like a moron because you can't control all the elements, and you're never going to nail it.
Yeah.
And so like the reality is, in part of the investment community I'm in, and as coaches, we talk about an investor always invests. High, low, middle ground, it does not matter, because the wealth is generated over time. It is not based on some, freak, I rolled the dice and got double sixes, that's not how it works. And so the reason why I say like asshat clown is like, I have some buyers, maybe I shouldn't even call them buyers, they've never bought. They have worked with me, and I have coached them one-on-one, and we have talked about the beautiful arc that they could go on, and they're just like, I really feel like this is how I want to do it. This is what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
They're still waiting today. And I've talked to some of these people for 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And I don't talk to them much anymore. I tell them like, when you're ready to transact, call me. But like right now, like I'm not going to spend more time helping you and they know.
Yeah.
Like I know a guy that he was signed on 2 properties with me in the low 300s for townhomes. And
that's what, 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
3-4 years ago. And he was like,
that's low, bro.
Yeah. And he was like, it was the highest pricing we'd ever seen in that community.
Wow.
And he's like, hey, I just can't, I'm going to back out on these. And I was like, dude, you can't back out on these. Dude. He thought he was timing it. He thought he had a better plan. He was going to do something with it. It was actually crypto and some stock and some loan. Like, I don't even know what it was, but the reality is those very properties today are worth Oh, 500,
Oh yeah.
490 to 520, maybe
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, he's kicking himself. We're talking 200 grand. And like, I want to explain something real quick because I don't think you'll ask a question that's direct to talk about this, but like, I want some math. And if people can follow along, it's fantastic, but I want some math to just blow your mind and their minds. I think you and I actually might have even talked about this on the airplane ride when we were flying back from one of the trips, but, people talk about in crypto, these gains, right? I made 100%, I made 200%, whatever. Let me just walk through this scenario if this guy would have bought at 325, okay? We have access to funding in Utah that is 10% down investor funding. Now, I don't advise to use it right now because numbers are really bad, right? You got to be 20, 25% down to see the cash flow. But if someone can go into the red a little bit, it's a very strong spot to be to springboard into wealth versus cash flow.
Right.
Okay. So equity. But if this guy would have bought at 325, at 10% down, we're talking 32.5K, right? And maybe he had some closing costs, and this loan program has a little bit more closing costs. So instead of the typical 6 to 8K, let's maybe say 15. So let's put it at 47.5K. And for the sake of math, let's just 50. Okay. 50 per unit, right? That's what it would have required to purchase. Now we go up to the 500 mark. Let's be conservative just for kicks and giggles, because this is going to get good. Let's say the math is, let's say it's dead 500. So we're up 175K, right? On our purchase.
Yeah.
50K entry. So the loan's probably just below 300. So if he sold, you put 200K back in pocket, right? So if we just do the math on that, $175,000 gain off of a $50,000 entry is a 350% return in sub 2 years. Yeah, sub 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it might be. Whenever the units were on the market.
Yeah, because how much was a townhome? And this, like the Lehigh area?
These were in Vineyard.
Vineyard? Okay.
Yep, these were in Vineyard.
Okay, so a townhome was in 2019?
Let me go back. I think in 2018, I bought one for 270. So 2019 was this. It was 2019. It was pre-COVID. Okay. I think it was summer of 19.
We got a condo in 18 or maybe beginning of 19 for, I think, just over 200. It was like 215. So the townhomes would have been, I think the townhomes at that point at the beginning of 2019 were 295.
Yes. Because I got a condo at
and
the
we
same
were like,
time.
I can't do a townhome, bro.
Yes. Can't do a townhome.
It's like an extra $80 a month, bro.
Woo! That's hilarious. But yeah. So that was the pricing at the time.
That's crazy.
So an investment in that, 50K, pull out, turn it into 200 or whatever the math is, you're at 350% return. And that's just on the appreciation.
Yeah.
What happened in the cash flow and what happened in the taxes?
Oh yeah.
So like you want to put your crypto against my real estate? Like bring your crypto against my real estate. Like long term, my numbers are disgusting. We're talking infinite return situations where a classic example, if anybody studies how to flip real estate and stuff, there's the Burr model, which is to get the money back out at the end. He could have easily, at this point in time, refinanced, got all of his initial capital back and just been playing with house money as infinite return.
Yeah. Because everything that you put in, his 50 grand, he would have made his 50 grand back. Because we're at $175,000 right now.
Yeah.
Pulls it out, and then he still has that huge return, and he's still making cash flow on it.
Correct. Yeah. Take your money off the table.
No money in. You just take that money, put it on something else.
And I have many of my investments that I keep track of that are now at infinite return level.
Wow.
And I take the money off the table, and then I take the house money. I even pull house money out against these properties and rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And you start to create, I talk about this, and I think you and I have talked about this, but any client that's listening to this will know, I talk about rolling snowballs. They're like, so what do you do for me? And I was like, I am the master of teaching you how to roll a snowball. And they're like, what? It's like, you sit on top of a mountain, we roll a ball together, then we push it off the hill. And then we roll another ball and we push it off the hill. And we roll another ball and we push off the hill. But as these snowballs go down the mountain, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. To the point of, I think there's an Instagram clip I have somewhere. I'm trying to think, probably a year ago, maybe maybe a year and a half ago, I don't know, somewhere in my feed, where I took 3 properties and I was up so much equity on the 3, I bought 4 more with no money down, rolled it into a single commercial loan. So these 3 loans were on my personal DTI, rolled those out, bought 4 in a commercial loan. None of this is on my DTI. And now I had 7 units. And then I was walking with that and cash flowing on everything. Right. So that is a great example of that long-term gain, and not like, I got my unit, hustle, get my unit, and my life changes on my first unit. It's get the next unit, get the next unit. You got to 7+, you got to get to 7 or more, and the numbers will start flying for you. Now, if you're in the Midwest, it's probably a higher number, 11, 12, 13, 15, right. I don't know. But here it's 6 to 7 units, and I am at less risk than if I had no real estate at all. Right. So
that's freaking sick.
Yeah.
Okay. I probably have one more question, then we got to wrap up, but what for, let me actually make this a good one. Or actually, let me just ask you this. Well, actually, okay, 2 questions. First one, how do you buy a luxury car? Cause I agree with you in everything that you've said about like buying the asset first and then have the asset pay for the liability, right? And all your stuff. If Rep with his, and I'm saying after his first or second year wants to buy a luxury car.
Okay.
And maybe he has some assets too. Okay. Right.
Okay. Has some assets.
What's the best way to buy a luxury car? Do you know anything about like the luxury car hacks or anything like that?
I was just going to say luxury car hacks, exotic car hacks.
So I don't know. I've just learned about these.
Yeah. So
I don't know how they work.
I'm in the exotic car hack community.
Okay.
And that's how I got the Bentley.
Okay. So can you explain that a little bit? Cause like I watched one YouTube video. It didn't really make sense to me.
You're like, wow.
So, I want to learn about that. And because something that's interesting is that if a guy can go out and make 100, 200, 500 or plus, and he goes and tells his buddies like, dude, you should come and try this.
Yeah.
You know, like this mind blowing, and they teach about investing, real estate, whatever.
Sure.
Like you can say that, but if you also have the properties and a sick car, it's so much better to be able to recruit and then be able to build your own organization, right? How do you buy a luxury car, exotic car hacks?
Great question. So I would say go join Exotic Car Hacks.
Okay.
Like actual, I think memberships, I don't know what they sell.
Is it a course? Is that what it is?
It's like a course in a community. So there's initial course, Exotic Car Hacks 1. You can buy 2. They're both fairly cost effective. And then he just released Tier 3, which is quite a bit more expensive, but that's like life and wealth management. It's not even cars.
Okay.
So PJ, he's out in Miami, and he talks about how he learned how to manage money because I think he was a banker. I could be wrong by that. I don't know what he did, but he helped manage wealthy people's money, and he did it through unique asset classes. So they bought art pieces, exotic cars, watches, just things that they would store. Really? They would buy a Bugatti and store it, and then 5 years later sell it for triple, right? And so the return is better on some of these asset classes than the typical things in the market and whatnot, right?
What's that, freak?
Now, there's not necessarily like this is big money, right? It's not necessarily like I don't necessarily advise everybody go do that. But the point of Exotic Car Hacks is PJ talks about what he teaches is a financial teaching that we so happen to use a car as the vehicle.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But it's actually how I approach real estate. This is really interesting, and I'll explain it just a little bit. Because a lot of people think like owning real estate is like buy all these ghetto units and like you have ghetto renters and it's just like this slumlord situation. All my type of tenants are young professionals, and they make $120K plus a year. To qualify on the units I own are we're talking $80, $90, $100,000 salaries. A couple homes that I have, people have to make $200K plus to even rent from me, right? So phenomenal people, right? To get back to the exotic cars is what PJ teaches is you don't want to be buying off the supercar down the street. You don't want to be buying from the garbage that's discounted online and then like trying to flip it. Right. Yeah. He talks about, and this is really interesting because Grant Cardone talks about this as well, that some of the most expensive vehicles are the vehicles that will make you the most money. It's like, wait a second. So like if you're looking at like an SVJ, a Lamborghini, right, Aventador, we're talking however many hundreds of thousands of dollars that is, and you can get an Aventador that's not an SVJ that's 400K versus 5, 6, 7, 800.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, I'll buy the cheaper one, right? And it's like the limited nature of those higher end ones are only become more and more coveted and wanted. And so over time, the asset appreciates versus depreciates if it's very, very exclusive and limited.
Got it.
So when we talk about the cars, he has guides as like, okay, you like XYZ, you like 1, 2, 3. What are you looking for in that car that makes it what it is? So to give you some details on my Bentley is one of 300 made that year of a super sports racing version. So it's not kind of the grandpa wood style. It's got carbon fiber. So it's one of 300, but the spec on it, so essentially the selections are one of one. So it's the only one. And that series ran for 2 years and then came back in 2 years later down the road. And so we're talking like a very limited run of a limited run of a limited run, right? And I bought it after it had some years on it. And it was at a low, essentially, what we call as bottom cash value is what PJ teaches. So if you acquire the vehicle at bottom cash value or close to it, the whole idea is that it kind of for the first few years has that depreciation curve like all vehicles do, but then it hits and sits. And then from then on, it's just going to keep going up forever because it's never going to be made again. It's limited and collectors and car enthusiasts want it.
Yeah.
So that's where like I could sell my Bentley now for more than what I bought it for. So I was paid to drive a supercar, right? And so that is Exotic Car Hacks. And it's something that like, I think about it in real estate. I think about a lot of things is like, how do I buy the premium? How do I buy the exclusive? Like in real estate, we buy properties that have views. Very, very few properties have views, right? You're working on one right now that's a view with a basement apartment opportunity, right? Where that's being built, the valley's going to fill up, and in 20, 30 years, you can't buy a view anymore.
Yeah. And
that view becomes not worth this, but it becomes 3, 4x because it's so limited. So same concept in the real estate world in the supercar space. And if you're going to hack luxury, I haven't taken his luxury course. He teaches different stuff, but for supercars, it's unique, and wanted. So that's kind of
How much did you get your Bentley for?
At the time, I got it off a guy in the community that didn't have enough garage space because he had just gotten 2 more Lamborghinis and 2 G-Wagons and whatever. So he hooked it up. And so I walked out it for $90K cash for that car. That was it.
No way.
Yeah. Now, mind you got to realize, a lot of people don't realize the Bentley is a 2010. A lot of people think it's 2017, 18, 19 because these supercars are so far ahead of their time that they feel that way, right? And so like I've looked at upgrading, right? Look at trying to get a 17, 18, or 19, but the bottom cash value of that car is around $80,000, $90,000. It'll never be worth less than that because your eyes just about fell out of your head when you're like, you bought a Bentley for what?
I thought your Bentley was like $400K, dude. Your Bentley is sick.
MSRP on that car is, I think, $308, right? So that's kind of how like through a negotiation, through a group. And another thing to note, these cars never show up on auctions. They're not on, like they don't go through normal because some people are like, why would you pay that much when you can get this one over here? And it's like, well, that one's a piece of shit. And if you go get, it's called the PPI, if you go get an inspection on it, you realize there's all these problems. In a Bentley, each brake on my car is $8,000. We're talking $32,000 in brakes. Whoa. So like, you have an issue, even though I had a lower purchase price because I did research and I actually really did the hack, there's a lot of expense that could happen, right? But the reality is if you're smart and you're careful with the car, the other thing is you got to buy it under 30,000 miles. And the more you have, the more you can drive it. So if you buy it at 27, you only can drive to 29, you got to sell it. I got mine with 18,000 miles, 2010 with 18,000 miles. And at the time it was 7, 8 years old. It was a brand new car, right? And it's still brand new. I've put 7,000 miles on it. It's between 24 and 25 now. And I could still sell it, and I probably could sell it right now. It's probably worth $120. So it's not crazy, but it's gone up from his $90,000 purchase price.
Wow.
Right.
That's freaking sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Kyle, anything else that you would just recommend to anyone just starting out in the making money world and the investing world?
I think one of the biggest things, and it's part of what I talk about, is in the relationship to money curriculum, is really pay attention to your information sources. Right? There's so much flashiness nowadays. I mean, I'm rolling through TikTok and you got these kids, you got all this stuff going on, and we're talking cars, we're talking holding wads of cash up, like things that are very easy to fake. I shouldn't say to fake. They have money, but it's not true who you want to be learning from.
Yeah.
Right. I've got an old acquaintance that I don't interact with much that has supercars, but like he didn't hack them. He's wasting money. He's blowing money. He's more on the pretend side of money. And like, it's so obvious in his energy. But like, I know there's young kids that don't see that. And so they're like gobbling up his content. I'm like, his content is garbage. Like, it is so smoke and mirrors. And it's like, you could just, hey, 4 a.m., wake up, buddy, like get on the grind. It's like, yeah, you might be a 4 a.m. person. You may not be, right? Yeah. You know, there's a guy that talked about early bird get the worm. He's like, why are we getting up and eating worms? Wake up whenever the hell you want and eat the bird, right? Like, what are we doing, right? Yeah. So I think what I want to say is like, pay attention to your information sources. And like, is it what we talked about? Like true wealth also is not very flashy. Yeah, I'll be honest, and this is something I'll talk about in front of everybody, is like I showed and flashed more early on because I was trying to I wouldn't say prove, but like show people what's possible. Whereas now I couldn't, if I told you everything that's happened this year, people would be like, what? Like, and I'm sure, you know, people at this company, especially, like, I'm sure Brandon's that way, where there's all kinds of things going on in his life, but he's not, you know, got a filming crew trekking behind him, showing everything all the time. Yeah. Right. And so like, pay attention to, the energy behind people that are sharing information, and do they have, I'd probably call it deep wealth. Like, is there depth there? Is there maturity there? And that's who you want to start paying attention to. Yeah. TikTok has phenomenal sources. I know that sounds crazy in today's day and age. It's like, I don't recommend a book. People are like, hey, what book? I'm like, hey, there's some people on TikTok. You just, every, late at night, they share wizard stuff. But information sources. So pay attention to them.
Are there any that you recommend?
I honestly don't know the names of anybody I follow. And TikTok knows me now and just feeds me all these people. Yeah. But like,
or books or any other sources that you would recommend.
Sources, you got to have some groundwork on your book sources. Like, and I know this is less financial, but How to Win Friends and Influence People is really important. Richest Man in Babylon. Yeah. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I learned a lot from some super ghetto book. I could probably send it back and we could post. It's like the 4 Keys of Financial Success. Some old lady, it's like story form that she sees a guy like tearing his front yard up in the middle of the night. And he's like going to go through a divorce with his wife, and she's like wealthy and teaches him over chess games in the middle of the night when he loses his temper. And it's great stuff. But like basic financial books, so you get grounded in understanding. I mean, Rich Dad, Poor Dad's the one that teaches like buy assets, not stuff.
Yeah, the cash flow quadrant.
Yeah, cash flow quadrant, like get into that. And then just practice. Like that's the one thing I'm going to say right here is like, it is not complicated. The secret isn't figuring out the secret. The secret is doing it over time.
I guess I agree with that a lot, because the amount of people that like, you're like, hey, have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad? Like the first time I ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like 17, 18, whatever. Like this just blew my brain cells so hard. And I couldn't stop talking about it. I'd ask everyone if they had read Rich Dad Poor Dad before I'd talk to my dad, trying to, talk to him about it, and everyone that I'd ever met in my entire life. And like the amount of people that have read Rich Dad Poor Dad is so crazy, but the amount of people that actually practice it is very different. Yeah.
And like, very different. It's molecular knowledge. It's like, how does it go inside of you?
Yeah. It's almost like out of 100 people, it's almost like it's 1%.
1%. Oh my
That's
gosh.
weird.
One other thing I'll say on that is like, if the group wants to have some fun, if you want to have some fun with family members, with peers here, whatever it might be, I know that's silly, but the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand has a game called
Cash Flow Quadrant.
the Rat Race. Cash Flow
Oh,
Quadrant.
no. Sorry. Is it the Rat Race?
Rat Race. I thought it was called the Rat Race.
Cash Flow. It's called Cash Flow.
It's called Cash Flow.
Cash Flow. I have it at my house. Actually, I have it in my Tesla, bro. It's in my truck. Me and Diego play it.
Okay, so is it great? Is it great? You can read the whole book.
Best game ever. I was the janitor and I won. Diego's the doctor.
This game is, I remember when I first played, I'm like, this is a stupid game. It's like Super Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you run around this circle in the middle and nothing ever happens. Like you don't make money, but if you can get out of the rat race is what they call it, right? In cash flow, it's called cash flow, yeah. But you get out of that rat race in the center and you get onto that exterior board, which is more like the Monopoly.
Yeah.
You become worth like 10, 20x the other people.
Yeah, you go. That's what happened to me. I was the janitor. So I had the lowest salary in the whole entire game, and Diego had the highest salaries, and the other people we're playing with were kind of in the middle. And I'm like, crap, Diego's gonna dominate. I want to say he was the first one out, and I was the last one out. But the second that I got out of the rat race, I had a few moves, and like within like 5 minutes, I had beat the game.
Boom.
Yeah. Millions of dollars, right?
Yep.
And I had like just broken out of like, financial stability. I'm getting into like some form of financial freedom, and then I'm worth millions of dollars, just like that.
Just like that. And it's weird. That game is very real to real life. Like I remember being in that circle, and it feels like it feels like the border is made up.
Yeah.
Like these people just talk about this, but they got lucky. They did, and it's like,
Right.
But if you keep grinding, once you get out of the rat race and you get onto that border, it's weird what happens. Like the money in the world of finance at that level does not operate like it does for the general public.
Yeah.
And that's something that's crazy that I've worked with a lot of people on is like, okay, now we have money, we have to be strategic, right? And it's a whole new language. It's a whole new world at that space. There's different relationships with banks. Like everything changes.
Right.
But 99%, again, we're saying that again, is what banks are built from. They're oriented towards consumers. Like it's all that way. But when you talk about wealth, it's a very different world, and it's incredible. So
Do you find that there's a little bit of victimhood because you're talking about like people just getting lucky? Do you find that there's a little bit of victimhood or victim mentality when people play that card?
Yeah, I think, and I know many people, and I don't know.
I'm not like, you can be as controversial as you can. I have my opinion on this, but
I would say, and like my heart goes out. Like I absolutely love many people that I've known in my past and growing up with, but like many, many, many people I know should be contacting me to jump into their lives and transform it.
Yeah.
And the reality is they just say, well, he couldn't do that for me. Like he got lucky.
Yeah.
He like, the timing, especially now, like pre-COVID, into COVID, and into now, it's like that'll never happen again. So he got lucky.
Yeah.
And so then they never put the effort in. But like, I'll tell you what, one of my buddies who I was best friends with in high school, we reconnected like 10 years later, just recently. I had a situation where I had another buddy that was in a tough situation financially, needed to liquidate a unit. Here he comes, brand new, never bought a property, never invested. I said, let's do a deal here to make both parties get something they want. We did an off-market deal, threw some incredible financing in, and like, this is Utah. He's cash flowing out of the gate, I think like $600 a month on this deal.
Nice.
And he's never invested before.
Townhome. Really? Nice.
Yeah, and so this buddy of mine, like I give massive kudos and praise to him for reaching out and for having a conversation.
Yeah.
And not blaming it on luck or I don't have the cards or they had the cards or whatever it is. Because the reality is like, and this is a story that I talk a little bit about my dad, but like people need to go understand what the story of Rumpelstiltskin's about, where he turns straw into gold. Is like investors own and have the identity of an investor. They're not somebody who ran into money.
Right.
Right? Like I can take a situation where I have a client. When I first started working with her, 50 to 60K in debt. Today, she's debt free and has 2 properties. This has been about a 2.5 year process. Right now, she doesn't have the income that I think people in your community might have.
sure.
She's got a salary job, but like I was certified in debt reduction, and that's like the very beginning of the journey. And then there's like the how do we deal with big wealth, and we're talking about whole life insurance policies and putting money into there, and then doubling your money and pulling it out, putting it into real estate, pulling it out, putting it into something else, pulling it out, and you make $1 worth $7.
Yeah.
You can 7x your execution of money. Versus like I buy a cheeseburger, it's gone. $1 is $1, right? And then there's these other forms. So working with people across the whole spectrum, it's like we can really help people get to where they want to and need to go. So yeah.
Would you say a lot of it's ego, like not wanting or pride, or not wanting people to know where they're truly at? Because
I think
if
that's a big one.
If you could step out of your shoes or
That's a
like
big
teach someone else how to like learn how to make wealth, right? You're gonna be like, okay, here's what you do. You go to the most wealthy guy
Yeah.
that figured out how to do it, and you go and ask him how to do it.
Yeah.
And you just say, hey, look, dude, just teach me. I'm fine to do whatever.
I'll work for free just to listen to you.
Like just let me be in your presence. Whereas like a lot of, like you're probably like offering just your services and your ability to help people build wealth. And it's like, well, I don't know if I can do it 'cause X, Y, Z.
Yeah, there's so many excuses in like, I think one is embarrassment, because there's like this, it's back to consumerism and comparison. It's like, well, I have these things and you have these things. We have the same things, but if I start talking to you about what's actually happening under the hood, it shows you I'm not really what I'm putting off to be.
Right.
Right. And so like, it's like, even I can imagine this with a rep, and this might sting with people, but it's fine. Because like, this is how we develop. It's like, they might have the brand new iPhone and the AirPod Pro Max super headphones. I don't even know what they're called. I just like to joke about it.
AirPod Pro Max, yeah.
I just got some as a
AirPod Pro
gift,
Max.
but like, whatever.
It's like the third time we said that.
I just bring that up because it was not.
You have to go over there. Dude, you're 30. It's fine.
It's fine. But then it's like, and then it's like the Tesla and like these things, but then it's like, oh, and they have $2,000 in the bank.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a second. Right. And like, I'm going to tell you right now, I interact with the influencer world a little bit. Those people are broke.
Yeah.
Like, they spend every dollar to make another dollar.
Yeah.
And it's like this, it looks so big. And it's like, how do you sleep at night? And I was in periods of my life where I didn't know how to sleep because I was so nervous about the bets I was putting on and where I was putting the money and what was happening, right? Go back to those crypto days. I'm looking at it at night. Talking about meme stock time. That was crazy.
Right.
But like, if you can build that solid, I know it's not crazy sexy. The destination is sexy, but like that solid long-term build, it's a whole nother level of confidence. It's a whole everything. And the reality is at the beginning, if there's victim mindset, if there's blame, if it's, oh, they had these cards dealt to them, it's like, put that all away.
Yeah.
Swallow your pride and reach out to somebody that knows what they're doing. And that's why I talked about energy. Like, understand, are they really what they are? And ask the hard questions. Like, you asked me to start this. What's your net worth? How much do you have in assets, right? It's not like I'm on here like, oh yeah, I'm a guy with a Bentley and I got like, I don't even wear a watch, but like cool watch or something, right? It's like, no, here's what I have and here's where I'm at. And the reality is, for especially these young individuals working in the industry, is like, there's certain people that the realities are, they make, maybe someone makes 7 figures, 8 figures, maybe even, right? They don't necessarily have the time to give one-on-one to someone who's new or young, right? But they do group things. They teach in large settings. They do seminars. There might have to be some advancement in that individual's financial progression before they can get into that room, right? And so it's like, you mentioned get the wealthiest person you can get near. And it's like, the reality is like, yes, get near the wealthiest person, but also who can you actually like spend time with? Because I know it's difficult to get my time, right? People have asked me to do a lunch, and I'm like, I can afford my own lunch. Sorry, I don't have time for that. Like, when you're young, it's like, oh, that flattered me. You want to take me to lunch? No, like, I don't have time. I don't have time to go to lunch with you, right? And Gary Vee, I think, talked about this. It's like, find somebody, target them. There's so many ways on social media to learn what they know, and hit them with, send them a gift of something that you think they like. And they're going to be like, what is this? From a stranger. And then wait, and then reach out and say, hey, I was the one that sent you that gift, and I know that your time is very, very valuable, but you're important to me, and I would love some of it. in whatever form or facet I can get.
That is cool.
And you might deal with a total jerk that would not do that.
Yeah.
But like if someone actually, because here's the thing, everybody wants to talk to Kyle for their own gain. I'm a human too. If someone actually cared about me, I'm gonna pour. I can make millionaires.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I can make millionaires.
Yeah.
But like the reality is, I have to be protective and selective over my time of who I work with. So the
Sure.
So the question
you
is,
explain that when we were on the airplane, and you were talking about your clients.
Yeah.
You were like, I need this much of them in order for me to even like spend my time with them.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that.
yeah. And that's important because early on, like I was willing to work with everybody, but then like I had experiences. I was like, not doing this again.
Yeah.
I fired clients before and they're like, wait, what?
You can't do that.
They hire me, I fire them. It's like, look, if you're not going to listen, if you're going to be a victim, if you're going to tell me stories. I remember working with a couple and like there was a couple early on that they were really offended that I told them like, hey, looks like you can't really reduce your expenses. We just need to increase your income. And they were like, oh, that's rude. Like, this is our income. You can't just make more income.
Yeah.
They were making about $70,000 a year at the time. And I was like, yeah, you can. Like, sell popsicles on the corner. I don't know. Like, figure it out, right? They were so stuck in there was no way.
Yeah.
And like, the reality was I had a hard conversation with them. I was like, you can. And until you come to the knowledge yourself that you can, I'm not the person to work with you.
Right.
Because we call it the gap, disposable income. We need that extra income. You're spending everything you make right now and you're in debt. And until we bring more in, it's not going to happen. Little friction, didn't go over well with the couple. Fine, we walked away. Conversation came back up about, I want to say it was like 7 to 9 months later. Hey, Kyle, we're making about $25,000 more than we were because we found some ways to make money. Can we have a conversation now? I said,
Really?
Absolutely. And they apologized
That's sick.
for getting upset. And I was like, honestly, after that, I was like, did I do
sick.
the wrong thing? I mean, I made someone
way.
sad, right?
Yeah.
But they figured out the power of, I can go generate.
Yeah.
Right. And especially here, like people have the opportunity to generate, man. I would pour into myself and just jack that income up and just slowly feed the fire of the investment. And especially in real estate, buy a property a year, make that a goal, buy 3 a year, whatever it is. Right. And just do that over time. Before you know it, you're going to have $10 million in real estate, $20 million in real estate. Right. And the value of that, like what's crazy, and I don't talk about this, but my 15 million that I have right now, I'm so young, right? I'm not 65 and I have 15 million. I'm 30. And I have 15 million. And so I look at the trajectory of what could potentially happen with that. Now, obviously the future is not going to be exactly like the past, but like the numbers show that I'm looking at probably by the time I'm 60, I'm looking at probably a 5 to 6x on that. So my 15 today is worth 75.
But you're talking about on that current 15.
On my current 15.
Yeah.
I'm talking, so I know when I'm 60, that 15 will be worth 75 to 90
If you don't do anything else.
Don't do anything else
for the
with
rest of your life.
Just hold on to it because that's the way the numbers work.
But that's appreciated.
It's appreciated.
So that's not cash flow.
Not cash flow, not
Nor is
tax,
that tax.
anything. That's 15 is worth 75 to 90. Now, as I keep building, I keep putting logs in the fire. That's the current fire.
Yeah.
So if I can build another 15, but the thing is I don't have 30 years again, right? Now we're talking 25, so it's a little bit less. But if I can stoke another 15, maybe that's worth 50. But like, so I'm looking at a trajectory where I know that my net worth at retirement, whatever that might be, I'm already kind of do whatever I want whenever I want. But the reality is when I'm at the age that our parents always talked about as like the age to do nothing, I very, very not just hope, but like the numbers show me I will have a net worth of 100 or more. And I didn't own a company or do some crazy thing in tech or hit it big in crypto. It's discipline over time.
Yeah.
And I think anybody listening to this, if they get into the numbers and do the math, like you can get, especially these young individuals that have way more earnings than I did at their age, have the potential to be worth $100, $200 million down the road without, breaking their arms and legs off in whatever form or facet that looks like.
Yeah.
Just like diligence and enjoy the planet. Like be a human, come alive, go do what you love, and you can still be worth $200 million.
So sick.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Kyle, appreciate all your time. Appreciate going over time with me as well.
Sure.
What's your Instagram so people can find you?
Currently it's the @ symbol, but the Kyle Tucker with an underscore.
Okay.
You'll see the Viking look, and you'll be at home when you get there. So
Right.
content's okay. It's more focused on my investments. I don't put out a lot there, but hopefully in 2023
Is that gonna
we'll
change?
we're working on some stuff for 2023.
All right.
I get very frustrated with the financial beliefs that are
Yeah.
out there,
Yeah.
and so like we've got to get more content to get it in your hands at night, so that it's not just one-on-one work, and it's with everybody all the time. So
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Kyle, thanks for your time, brother.
Okay, thank you.